The same politicians, known faces that contributed to the situation that Nigeria is today. The same similar or rather familiar faces have come together in a coalition and they've decided to wrestle power from the ruling party, the APC. Now, the APC is also a party that has contributed to the destruction of Nigeria. And the irony is that some of these faces in the coalition are part of the APC. But because they had some internal grievances, they decided to go against what they pushed for. And I want you to come to your own conclusion after watching the video if you think this coalition is going to be beneficial or it's not. As a matter of fact, I will give my own opinion before the video even begins. The coalition is already going to be detrimental to the society, but it's unfortunate that a lot of people will pick a side because the people easily fall victim. They are easily deceived. I just don't get the psychology. You see the same faces that contributed to the situation that we're in, but you still go ahead and follow them. What's good, African family? Welcome back to the African Wahala. Today, we're going to be digging deep into Nigerian politics, and we are zooming into the political landscape for 2027 as the election looms. The election is not going to be credible. Let me just put that out there at the beginning. So I'm not making this video to make you have any form of hope or for you to anticipate that anything good will come out of a 2027 elections. A new coalition by the Nigerian National Coalition Group has launched a all-democratic alliance, or they call it the ADA, political group, and they plan to take on the All Progressive Congress, the APC, in 2027. But who's behind the bold move? And what events from their past could haunt their campaigns? There are so many answers, and you need to know that no matter what skeletons they have in their closets that is known by the entire world or their victims, it's not going to change the fact that their victims are still going to support them. So even if these guys have been fingered to be a part of genocide or terrorism or corruption or anything negative, they are still going to be supported because that's just how human beings are. Humans will always pick a poison to destroy them. In June 2025, the NNCG, I'm using a lot of abbreviations. The NNCG is the Nigeria National Coalition Group. They applied to the INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission, to register an ADA party, Alliance Democracy, or rather All Democratic Alliance. Their mission is to unite so they can form an opposition force to get rid of the APC and, in their own words, tackle some of the big issues in the country like the economic hardship, insecurity, government failures, etc. The coalition leaders are some known political guys that you know, like Atiku Abubakar, who's on the screen. And many of these guys carry some baggages from their past. And my main purpose of making this video is to show you some of the baggages that these same politicians that came together in the name of rescuing you Some of the baggages from their past is what I'm going to talk about. You already know that these guys are unscrupulous, but it's not going to change the fact that they are going to be supported by millions of their victims. And it only elongates our enslavement in the Nigerian project. Starting from the Northeast Zone leader, Atiku Abubakar, a former vice president from 1999 to 2007. They call him a political titan because he has been in the political space for so long. He has been contesting for presidency since 1992. And that means this guy has been a perpetual runner for presidency for 32 years. In 2023, former President Obasanjo, Atiku was the vice president, accused Atiku of embezzling $145 million from the Petroleum Technology Development Fund. And obviously, Atiku denied it. He claimed the funds were invested to earn interest, and obviously, there was no conviction. There was no money to showcase, and nothing happened. In 2010, the same Atiku Abubakar, a US Senate report alleged that he transferred $40 million in suspected funds to the US through his former wife, including $1.7 million tied to Siemens bribery scandal. So you can Google the Siemens bribery scandal and Atiku Abubakar's attachment to that situation. He was also linked to a corrupt US congressman's bribery case, but there were no charges filed as expected. Back in 1984, as a customs officer, Atiku Abubakar was involved in 53 suitcases saga. You need to Google that as well, where soldiers allegedly bypassed custom checks for suitcases at his airport. No evidence of personal gain was proven, but the incident raised eyebrows. All these accusations against Atiku has never brought any form of indictment or thorough investigation that could provide some justice, because the Nigerian system is such that if you become so powerful, you are above the law. Also, if you can strategically align yourself with the people in power, you are above the law. That's why it's very common for you to see Nigerian politicians hopping from one political party to another, because they have no principles, they have no morals, there is no consequences for their actions. The Nigerian system simply makes it possible for them to commit these crimes without any consequences or repercussion. And that's why ultimately the people have to dismantle the system and create a system that will make it possible to hold people accountable and not have anyone above the law. Let's talk about the second guy in the coalition, Rotimi Amechi. He is the one here on the screen shaking his hands with Atiku Abubakar. In all fairness, I I actually have, it's an irony, but I have a little bit of a respect for Rotimi Amechi personally. Not because I think he's a honest guy. The guy is a crook, all right? But I respect the fact that he calls Nigerians. He's been telling Nigerians for the longest time that you guys need to start holding us accountable, and you need to find a way to get rid of us. He accused Nigerians of being very docile, very quiet, in the midst of oppression. He wonders how corrupt Nigerian politicians are able to perform with so much impunity and they never get accountable. They never face consequences and repercussions. So basically, he's advising Nigerians to come and get people like him for being corrupt. That's why I respect what he says. I don't necessarily respect him. Let me take that back. I don't respect him as a human being, but I respect what he says when he encourages Nigerian people to go after corrupt politicians. Now, this same Rotimi Amechi was a governor from 2007 to 2015, where he allegedly siphoned $700 million from Rivers State funds, with an additional $150 million supposedly used to fund APC's 2015 campaign. These claims from many verifiable and unverifiable sources did not have Rotimi Amechi appear in front of a judge to be potentially questioned or investigated and maybe judged. So nothing happened. So Rotimi Amechi was a strong friend of the APC, and now he's formed a coalition with Atiku Abubakar to get rid of the same APC that he was a friend of. You're going to notice a common pattern amongst some of these individuals in the coalition where they were part of the APC or they were very strong allies of the APC. And all of a sudden, they are forming a coalition against the APC now that the corrupt Tinubu is in power. That similar pattern, in my opinion, has to do with some internal beef amongst the APC members. Once they have a problem amongst themselves, then they start campaigning against themselves, not because they are trying to rescue the country or the sole purpose of their fight is to make Nigeria a better country or to improve the environment. No, it's all for selfish reasons. It's all for reasons on I need to grab power so that I can be in control. And once I'm in control, I can be worshipped as a king. It's all for selfish interests, right? The same Rotimi Amici has been criticized for being two-faced. He lives an extremely lavish lifestyle. Well, he lived an extremely lavish lifestyle while he was the governor. And a lot of people asked questions about the origins of his wealth. And the answer to that is quite simple. The origins of his wealth is from stealing, from looting the public funds in Nigeria. The guy started as a House of Representative member in River State, and he worked his way up till he became the governor. And it was all detrimental to River State and the people of River State. The only people that benefited from that action were his corrupt political friends, his family members, and his close associates, just like it is with most other politicians. We're going to go into the third individual in the coalition, and we're talking about Nasir El Rufai. El Rufai is the guy on the third to the right of the screen. So he's the guy with the hat on his head, the green cap or hat. He was the former governor of Kaduna State from 2003, 2007 to 2015, I believe. Yeah, he was the governor of Kaduna State. But before that, this guy has always been in the political space in Nigeria. He was the former FCT minister, Federal Capital Territory, and a hardcore northern elitist. He is part of the people in the coalition called the All Democratic Alliance. And between 2003 and 2007, El Rufai allegedly seized and of the locating prime unscrupulous by terrorists against the southern Kaduna residents. All over Africa. Good luck, Jonathan. Another corrupt government, by the way. They needed to empower detriment of Nigeria and Nigerians. No convictions. El Rufai, an APC member that campaigned for Tinubu's government, now has decided to join a coalition to fight against. Is that not a clear evidence that these guys for their own murder? But it's just how human beings are. They will support what will punish them. And that is what El Rufai brings to the table. Now let's go to another guy in the central, or rather the middle Belta region of Nigeria. This coalition so the guy, and he He was filed in Nigeria, and obviously claimed that his family wealth and his legal system works. Support of not just your fellow politicians, wealthy people, because the politicians and the wealthy business people from Nigeria. It's a double-edged sword because consider the current killings happening in the northern region of Nigeria, from Plateau to Benue. You should know that people are extremely angry at this time at these politicians. But that doesn't stop the fact that they find millions of those same communities that will support these corrupt politicians knowing what they've done. And they can't help but support the people that push for their. We also as it's revealed or be hidden wealth, tax avoid personality business that have been stuck on OB. So that makes him one of the cleaner, so to say, let me use that word, cleaner individuals in the coalition. So amongst the unscrupulous characters, one of them have to be the best, or let's say amongst dwarfs, one of the dwarfs will still be the tallest, right? And that is the case of Peter Obi. So he currently has a huge obedient movement behind him, and that movement is has garnered a lot of support. It'll take time to dismantle that situation, but we'll see what this coalition brings to the table. And like I said, Obi is one of the speculated members. It has not been fully confirmed that he is one of. He's absolutely one of the people forming a coalition. Look at this guy. This is Atiku Abubakar and his son El Rufai, two Fulani terrorists. If you ask me, that's my listen. My description of Atiku Abubakar and El Rufai is as such that they are Fulani terrorists, sponsors of the disintegration of the Nigerian state, because they can't help their greed and their insatiable seek for wealth and power. These guys would rather destroy an entire so-called nation in order to get power. They don't care. These guys are so selfish that they will do anything to get power. Why do they want to get power so bad? I think one of the reasons is their fear to fall back into poverty. I think number one reason is power is addictive. Once you have power and you realize how much control that you have in a society and how much wealth and adoration that brings to your life, then it becomes addictive. And then number two, in a society that is fractured where people are highly suspicious of one another along tribal lines, ethnic, religious lines, then when you have power in such society, you become invincible. And then you have the ability to distribute the invincibility to your friends and your family. That's why a lot of these guys have that insatiable greed as far as seeking for power. So I'm having some technical issues. My screen isn't sharing with you, but I can still keep on with the narration. Hopefully, the audio is audible. We have the former Senate President Bukola Saraki as one of the speculated members of the coalition, and in 2023 to 2003, to 2011, he allegedly diverted $1.1 billion to his family's Society Generale Bank. Yeah, between 2003 and 2011. In 2015, Saraki faced charges for false assets declaration, but he was acquitted. His wealth and influence remain contentious because he is extremely wealthy, just like all the Nigerian top politicians are, and all their wealth is contentious because obviously they stole the money, but they never get convicted for stealing the money. And what Saraki brings to the table is his ability to galvanize the people of Kwara so that they can support a coalition to topple the Tinubu's administration. And the only reason these guys are using this strategy is because obviously the Tinubu's administration has brought so much pain, suffering, and hunger and insecurity to the lives of the people, just like the Buhari's administration did. Tinubu's administration is a continuation. And while people are emotional, being hungry and frustrated, and putting all the blame on the current government, these coalition guys that have contributed to the mess that Nigeria is have found the perfect opportunity to galvanize the people that are suffering as a result of APC's administration to support them. And they're thinking with that support, they might be able to knock off APC in 2027. It's a joke because the 2027 elections is going to be rigged. It's not going to be free and fair. And even if these guys are able to knock off APC in 2027, they are not going to bring any changes. It's still going to be the continuation of pain and suffering. But the people don't know that yet. They are still going to pick a side. Some people are currently picking the current APC's government, that they stand behind the APC, and some others, because of their sentimental feelings, are going to be picking the ADA, All Democratic Alliance. That name even sounds weird. Imagine El Rufai calling himself a Democrat. Imagine the coalition of El Rufai, Atiku Abubakar, Rotimi Amechi, potentially Kwakwaso, calling themselves Democrats that are coming to rescue Nigerians from Tinubu. It's a joke. Another speculated member is Wike. the current minister of FCT. Although Wike is an APC ally, he's from another political party, PDP, another extremely corrupt political party. Just so you know, I've mentioned three political parties so far, and these are the APC, the upcoming ADA, and then the PDP. These are all extremely corrupt political parties that contributed to the destruction of Nigeria. But individuals from these same political parties that are well known, these guys are all billionaires, and they became billionaires by being politicians, not because they created any venture or enterprise, not because they invented anything or they are super smart. They simply became billionaires because if you get into the political space in Nigeria and you can manage to rise to a high level, you will become a billionaire and you're not going to go to jail. Even if you blatantly steal billions of dollars, there is no consequences and there is no repercussion. That's why these guys that are all billionaires, all contributed to the destruction of Nigeria, have come together once again to shake the political space by removing the current APC, which, by the way, is destroying Nigeria, to replace themselves with the APC. And do you really think they would make any changes? I definitely don't think so. Plus, I don't even think the election will be free and fair. It's not going to be free and fair. I can guarantee you that. I'm 100% confident that the 2027 elections will not be free and fair. It's going to be a case where the better rigger wins the election. So if the ADA can figure out a way to infiltrate INEC and rig the elections better than the APC, then maybe they can win 2027 elections. Wike also is the guy that, while being the minister of the FCT, is trying to control River State, and that led to the toppling of the government of Fubara and the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers. So without a doubt, Wike is also an unscrupulous character, but he's about to potentially join the coalition. It's speculation. Wike is a speculative case. Obi is a speculative case. Sheyi Makinde is the next person I'm talking about. The guy is the governor of Oyo State. Another speculative case. Of course, Makinde, there is no Nigerian politician that doesn't have any lingering corruption accusations around them. But they just never go to prison. They never get charged. They never face any consequence or repercussion. I'm going to call a few other names. I don't even need to go into the details of their loot. One guy, Sule Lamido, former governor of Jigawa. He's also a speculative member. Obviously, this guy, he has been around the EFCC. Even his sons, his own children, have faced the EFCC, the Economic Financial Crimes Commission, for allegations of stealing money, including 1.3 billion naira money laundering case in 2015 against Lamido and his sons. The guy has a strong influence in the north, and that's the reason why he's important in the coalition. And then we have Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta, former Delta state governor. In 2023, he was Atiku's running mate to be the vice presidential candidate of the PDP, and he has been obviously accused of mismanaging Delta State's oil wealth, and he has obviously diverted funds into his private bank accounts, and they've not been one single charge against him, just like everybody else. In 2023, election fraud allegations also surfaced against Okowa, raising questions about his credibility. But that's not even Eddie. That's not a big deal because, I mean, we have literal killers and terrorist sponsors that are in top positions. So if all what this guy did was steal money, it's not even as horrible as people that are sponsoring terrorists, right? They're all horrible, don't get it wrong. But amongst devils, one guy is still better than the other. And then we have Ayo Fayoshe, former governor of Ekiti State, PDP guy, very staunch PDP member. In 2014, there was an Ekiti Gate audio leak that implicated Fayoshe in electoral fraud with 15 million naira for rigging purposes, bribing people to make sure the elections were rigged. That happened in 2014. He was also probed by the EFCC for 6.9 billion naira fraud, and the case remains unresolved. Obviously, Fayoshe denied all allegations, and today he's a free man enjoying his billions. Not only enjoying his billions, he is potentially going to join the coalition to try to wrestle power away from the APC, not for the benefit of Nigeria or Nigerians, but for his own personal interests. We also have Kayode Fayemi and Rauf Aregbesola. Fayemi is also former Ekiti governor, claims of stealing $40 million that was stashed up in Ghana. And this guy actually purchased a bed when Naira had some value. This guy bought a bed for 50 million naira. A bed. A governor in a poverty-stricken state bought a bed for 50 million naira. He's about to join the coalition as well because the coalition is made up of criminals, as expected. Then we have Rauf Aregbesola, former Southwest leader, I believe in the APC. Yes, the APC. Former governor of Osun State, former interior minister, allegedly milked Osun State of $60 million. During his time, the government workers were not paid for as long as 10 months, even a year. What am I talking about? Some of these guys weren't paid for over a year, their salary, and they were expected to show up at work without getting paid. His fallout with Tinubu makes him a perfect asset for the All Democratic Alliance, and he will also bring to the table the ability to galvanize his slaves from the Ekiti State region. And then we also have the former Vice President of Nigeria, Yemi Osibanjo, being mentioned as one of the potential coalitionists. Osibanjo obviously has a ton of corruption allegations leveled against him. He was the vice president to Buhari, one of the most corrupt administration in the history of Nigeria. Osibanjo literally was given 10,000 naira to market women in the name of removing them from poverty. So he expected people to invest in businesses with 10,000 naira. And then during one of those trips to deliver the 10,000 naira in cash to unknown people, because Nigeria doesn't have a database, so they simply claim that they've distributed billions of naira to poor people without any accountability. He had an helicopter crash. His chopper crashed in the process of going to deliver money. Luckily, he survived and he continued with the unscrupulous behavior. I'll give him some credit though, because one time when Buhari was busy destroying Nigeria, and whenever Buhari destroyed Nigeria, or rather contributed to the destruction of Nigeria, he would take a quick vacation to London, England, and spend a couple of weeks just chill while Nigeria was being decimated by terror groups and economic hardship. Osibanjo finally took over and had some power being the vice president, and he actually made some reforms, some minuscule reforms, but all that shit got destroyed at the same time because once Buhari came back into power, or rather once the cabal members of the Buhari's administration realized that Osibanjo is doing too much, they shoved him out of the position of power. So even the constitutional powers that allows the vice president to be in control is not as powerful as the cabal members. So, as far as public sentiment is concerned for these 2027 elections, like I said, there is a lot of people that will support these guys, no matter how many evidences have been shown that these guys are unscrupulous and they have no good intentions. And in all honesty, if this was a real society, these guys are all supposed to be in prison. Every last one of them are supposed to have been investigated and put behind bars for destroying Nigeria. But not only are they not behind bars, they are trying to get back into power to become top politicians to continue the destruction of Nigeria. 2027 elections is going to be rigged. The ADA is not going to be successful in fixing Nigeria, not because they can't, but because they don't have the intention to. And that same logic applies to the APC or the PDP or whatever political party you want to mention. None of these guys have the intention or the will to fix Nigeria. Their game plan is to destroy Nigeria. But let me know what you think in the comment section. Click on the like button and subscribe to the channel if you like this type of political content. Peace.